Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So today is our Segaki ceremony, which is a ceremony welcoming hungry ghosts. And I'm going to tell a story that Jocko reminded me about, the Song of Milarepa, who is a great Tibetan yogi. And for you guys online, this is what Milarepa looks like. So Milarepa, this is Milarepa sitting in his cave. I'll pass this around. This is Milarepa sitting in his cave, and his hand is up here to his ear because he's listening to the cries of the world. So he's kind of like Avalokiteshvara. So it looks kind of like he's like this in this picture, but his hand is cupped around his ear. So I'll give this to Geegan to pass around. Okay, so hopefully I won't have a catastrophe here. So today we're celebrating Feeding the Hungry Ghost ceremony, and in Japanese, the word is Segaki. So in the Zen Buddhist community in the United States, the Segaki ceremony is usually associated now with Halloween. So that's usually when we celebrate it. But the idea behind this ceremony is that we summon the hungry ghosts to come and be nourished, and in that nourishment, it alleviates suffering, their suffering. So the thing about hungry ghosts is they have giant bellies and really tiny, tiny necks. So they can't take nourishment because their necks are like this big around. And so they're always trying to figure out ways to get enough sustenance so to alleviate their suffering. And in this ceremony, what happens is they come and their necks are opened up and they're able to receive the nourishment of the Buddha's teaching. So that's the function of what's happening in the ceremony. And so they're nourished by our compassion to have this ceremony. And so we have this altar over there, which is the altar of for the hungry ghosts. And usually in the United States, we like to put things like candy on the altar because I think because we're hungry ghosts and we like candy when we're feeling like hungry ghosts. So we have a lot of candy in here to bring the hungry ghosts out. I think in like Japan, for example, they might have rice rather than maybe the Japanese hungry ghosts have a better sense of nutrition than the Americans would do. But I thought that I would tell the story of from one of the songs of Milarepa. So again, Milarepa is a Tibetan yogi, lived a long time ago. And when Milarepa was young, his father was killed. And his mother said to Milarepa, I want you to take revenge. And he became a sorcerer. And he murdered a lot of people in this kind of revenge thing that was going on to try to revenge his father and to do what his mother asked him to do. Now, Milarepa was essentially a very good person. And so he didn't feel very good about this as a kind of lifestyle, and he regretted what he had done. So eventually what happened was he became the student of Marpa, who is also another famous yogi and in Tibetan Buddhism. And so Marpa made Milarepa do a lot of really difficult things so that he would, clear away all the bad things and the evil deeds that he had done. So for instance, Marpa had Milarepa build a tower of stone, and he would build this whole tower out of stone, like not a small one, but a really big one, like 3 stories or something. And then Milarepa would say, well, no, Marpa would say, I don't like it there. Would you move it over here, please? So then he'd have to take the whole tower apart and move it over like 10 feet or something, and then build it again. So this happened 3 times where Milarepa had to take the tower down and build the tower back up again before Marpa was happy, and before Marpa felt like he had work through all the kind of evil things that he had done, and that he could really show that he was a sincere student, and that he really wanted to be a good person. So Milarepa's story tells us that even when we do bad things, that in our heart we're good people, and that even if we do bad things, that we can make them good, and that we can become good people in the process of our lives. So we can do good things for other people. So, there's a story about Milarepa that I want to tell today that has to do with the Hungry Ghost story. So, it's called The Tale of the Red Rock Jewel Valley. And it's called that because Milarepa was living in a cave. And that's where the cave was in the Red Rock Jewel Valley. So Milarepa was meditating, and he'd been meditating for quite a bit. And he realized that he was hungry, and he hadn't been shopping. And so consequently, he discovered he didn't have any food in his cave. And so he had to go on and go shopping. So he went out and he went to the store and he bought some food. And on his way home, he decided that he needed some wood so he could build a fire in his cave to cook his food. So this big storm came up on his way back, and the storm blew all his clothes off, and the clothes were blown into the tree. And so there Milarepa is standing in his underwear with the clothes in the tree. And the firewood that he was gathering was all scattered everywhere, and it was just terrible. And so Milarepa was going like, I feel so terrible. I'm so bummed out and so unhappy about what's happened. And this big storm has come, and look, all my clothes are in the tree, and I'm cold, and I don't have any firewood. So Milarepa said to himself, I bet right now my teacher Marpa is teaching students. And I bet that Marpa's wife, whose name was, let me see if I can find this in here, in my notes here. I can't remember the name of his wife. Marpa's wife's name was Dagmima. It's kind of a funny name. Dagmima was the name of his wife. And his wife was like a mother to Milarepa. So Milarepa's going, oh, all this horrible stuff is happening to me. Everything's terrible is happening. My clothes are in the tree. My firewood is all blown around. Oh, I wish I were with Marpa right now. I really wish I were with Marpa. And I wish I were with Dagmima, because she's like my mother. And I know I would feel better if I were with them. And he was feeling really depressed about things. So he says, oh, Marpa, I wish I were with you. And suddenly Marpa appeared in the clouds right above him right there. And Marpa looked down on him, and he said to Milarepa, he said, Milarepa, you need to remember the Buddha's teaching. You need to remember the things that you know. Marpa said to Milarepa, my son, why with such deep emotion did you call me so desperately? Why do you struggle so? Have you not an abiding faith in your teacher and the Buddha? So he's kind of admonishing him and saying, hey, you need to remember all the things that you've been taught already. And then he said, do fear and longing sap your strength? And then Marpa encouraged Milarepa to kind of get on with it, right? And so Milarepa immediately felt better about the whole thing. And so he got his clothes out of the tree, and he put his clothes on, and then he collected his wood again. And he started back back to the cave. Now here's the thing. Now Milarepa, he's kind of having a bad day, but what he doesn't know is that while he's been gone, 5 demons have gone to his cave, and they have totally trashed his cave. It's like they've thrown things around, and they've just pulled all of his books out of the bookcases and everything. And so, poor Milarepa, he's like had a terrible day so far. And then he goes into the cave, and there are these demons in the cave in there, right? And the thing is, they've already kind of trashed the place, but one of them is reading Marpa's book, and the other one is pretending to give a Dharma talk. So he's pretending to give a talk about the Buddha. And one of the other demons is pretending to listen. So it's like, he's like going, and the Buddha said, blah, 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 like that, right? And the other one was watching and going, oh yeah, all right, okay, you're such a wonderful teacher. All this stuff was happening. And so, you know, can you imagine how Marpa felt when he came home? It's like, oh no, here I am. I just came home, and what are these 5 demons doing in my house? So Milarepa said to himself, okay, well, I want to get rid of these demons. How am I going to get rid of demons? So he said, well, you know, when I moved into the cave, I didn't really acknowledge the spirits of the nature, you know, who live around the cave. Like, he didn't go around, he said, oh, dear fox, I really love you. Thank you for being here, you know. Oh, here's a stream. Thank you for the stream. Thank you for the fish. He didn't do that. He just kind of moved into the cave and started meditating. So he thought to himself, okay, well, maybe I need to do something about that. So he decided to sing a song of praise. And he said, the song's a little longer in the book, but he said, ye local demons, ghosts, and gods, all friends of Milarepa, drink the nectar of kindness and compassion, and then return to your abodes. So thank you very much for coming, but you can leave now. And you know, it didn't work. They were like, no, we're not leaving. As a matter of fact, they surrounded Milarepa and they made faces and they made ugly noises and they tried to scare him. And he thought to himself, Milarepa thought to himself, you know, these demons are actually a reflection of my own mind. So, you know, when we get unhappy, like sometimes we get angry about things and we're not happy about stuff. And maybe we want to kind of lie down on the floor and kick the floor a little bit and just sort of kind of make a lot of screamy noises and say, I don't like this. So this is like suffering, right? So this is the kind of suffering that we experience. And so he says, you know, this is like a reflection of my own mind, these demons coming in my house and kind of tearing everything up. And he said, you know, what I'm going to do is I'm going to think about all the good things about my life. I'm going to have gratitude for all the good things and also all the good things about myself, so he can remember what a good person he is. And he said to himself, he said, well, I have no fear. So he said, I'm the son of a golden eagle and I can fly in the sky. And he said, I'm a fish, a giant fish, and I'm not afraid of fish hooks. And not only that, I have swum in thundering waves. And then he said, you know, I'm a great student. I'm a great Buddhist student. So he remembered his Buddhist teaching, that he had faith in that. And then he said, you know, I live alone in this cave, but I'm not afraid of demons. I'm not afraid of demons because I'm a good person and I have some wisdom, and not that it's okay. It's okay, the demons are in my cave. So then he says, okay, he turns around to the demons and he says, okay, guys, you trashed my house. You're making fun of my teaching, but you know what? You can stay. You're welcome. Like, I'm going to serve you cookies. You can have cookies, you can have candy, you can have tea. Come on in, just enjoy yourselves. Welcome to my house. Do whatever you want to do. And then as soon as the demons were welcomed by Milarepa, they turned into this frightened mob, and they shrank back and they rolled their eyes. And then they were in despair and they were trembling violently and then swirling around together like a whirlwind. They disappeared, right? So Milarepa's generosity, his good heart, all the teachings and the encouragement that he'd received from his teaching and from his teacher, and he remembered that and he had faith in that he was a good person, then by doing that, all the demons disappeared. And then Milarepa was left in peace. And so he was pretty happy about that. But you know, his generosity and his willingness to you know, remember his goodness, remember his teachers and his family and his friend, And remember that all of that supports us, and that he found a better way to live, and that he was suffering a lot less. So he was able to remember that and feel that generosity towards the demons. Okay, so here's the thing, in the ceremony that we're doing today, this is like offering nourishment. This is like welcoming the hungry ghosts. So it's like Milarepa, the demons in the cave. And we're saying, please come, hungry ghosts, come. And Milarepa was able to do this because he did recall all the good things about the teachings and about his faith in the teachings, and also remembering the good things about his own abilities, his own faith and ability to do goodness and to alleviate suffering. And by doing that, it brought him the courage to be able to face the demons. And so we invite the hungry ghosts to the feast that we prepared for them, which is over on the altar. And in the ceremony, we have a chant that starts out, calling all you hungry ghosts. And so we are bringing them forth and asking them to come. And we are protected from any trouble that the hungry ghost might cause for us by these 4 banners here on the corners, which are the banners of the 4 wheel turning kings, protector kings here. These guys, and their pictures are actually up in the circles, but you can't really see them very well, of the 4 directions. And then we say the homages. We make homage to the various Buddhas, the names of our Buddha ancestors, and we summon them, and those are the banners on the back of the altar. Here are the names of the Buddhas that we chant and summon to come and witness and help us to alleviate the suffering of the hungry ghosts. And then we recite the chant called Gate of Sweet Dew, and thereby welcoming the ghosts, the hungry ghosts, into our cave, into our home, into our zendo, and our hearts. And then we try to heal them by chanting these Buddhist chants, and basically through this goodwill and welcoming that we're engaged in. And so this is actually the feast that we're offering the hungry ghosts that are both inside and outside of us. And then at the end of the ceremony, we recite the Dahi Shindarani, which is a magical chant. And the title of it means chants to preserve and uphold great compassion. So before we, send the hungry ghosts on their way, we recite this chant that is of great compassion. And hopefully it says preserve and uphold. So it's this way in which it has this lasting effect. So they go back to their homes with this lasting effect of the goodness of this. And then, we hope that our efforts to nourish them is going to preserve and uphold this great compassion. And so we can think about this ceremony as a ceremony healing our own suffering, healing the suffering of others, and a ceremony to heal the hungry ghosts that are among us, and bringing some relief to ourselves and others. So this is how the ceremony ends, and it's like Milarepa, right? Milarepa, he goes away, but he calls forth the ancestors, which here is like he's calling forth his teacher. He's calling forth Marpa and Marpa's wife and all of Marpa's students. And Marpa comes and encourages him. And then he goes back to the cave, and he has in some way brought these demons himself into the cave. He's not sure how. And then he welcomes them. And by welcoming them, they're frightened by that, but they also leave. And so we don't have to do a direct, comparison one-on-one, but by welcoming them, they feel this sense of being able to leave. And that welcoming is that kind of generosity. So that's how the ceremony goes. And I hope everybody stays. Thank you very much. And we're gonna skip the Q&A today, so we can just kind of go into the ceremony and not, because it's a